The Deep Space Research Station Horizon drifted silently through the void, its lights twinkling against the endless black of space. Inside the command center, Tom Reed stared at the blinking red dot on his monitor. Something large was moving out there, something that shouldn't be in this sector. "Sir, the object is changing course," reported Jack, the young radar specialist. His fingers moved quickly across the holographic display. It's damage. I'm detecting multiple hull breaches." Tom stroked his graying beard, a habit he'd developed over his 15 years in deep space. "Show me the visual." The main screen flickered to life, revealing a massive vessel twice the size of Horizon. Its dark hull seemed to absorb the light from nearby stars, and its shape reminded Tom of ancient sea creatures he'd seen in Earth's museums. But what caught his attention were the deep gashes along its side, glowing with an eerie purple light. "Running it through the database," said Mary from her station. The computer hummed as it processed the ship's unique characteristics. Suddenly, all screens flashed red, and a warning klaxon blared through the station. "No," Mary whispered, her face pale. That's a Shadowhunter vessel." The command center fell silent. Everyone knew about the Shadowhunters, the apex predators of known space. Stories told of entire planets stripped bare, of fleets vanishing without a trace. The Galactic Council had only one protocol for Shadowhunter encounters: immediate retreat. Tom's communication panel lit up. "Station Horizon, this is Council Emergency Command. You are ordered to leave the sector immediately. Repeat, immediate withdrawal required." But Tom couldn't take his eyes off the damaged ship. Something about its movement seemed wrong. It wasn't hunting, it was drifting, almost helpless. "Sir," Jack called out, his voice shaking, "I'm detecting a life sign. It's weak, but it's there, and it's small." Tom made his decision. "Mary, get Dr. Wells to the medical bay. Jack, prepare the tractor beam. We're bringing it in." "Commander Reed." The council representative's voice was sharp with fear. "This is a direct violation of Safety Protocol 147. These creatures are classified as maximum threat level. They cannot be reasoned with." "With all due respect," Tom replied, his voice firm, "that ship is damaged, and there's a life at risk. We're a research station. If we want to understand the galaxy, we need to do more than run away from what scares us." He switched off the communication panel and turned to his crew. "This is volunteer only. Anyone who wants to evacuate can take the emergency shuttles." Nobody moved. Hours later, Tom stood in the observation room, watching as the station's robotic arms carefully guided the dark vessel into the largest docking bay. Dr. Anna Wells joined him, her medical kit ready. "You know," she said, checking her scanner, "I studied every bit of data we have on Shadowhunters. Nobody has ever gotten this close to one alive. Let's hope we live to write the research paper," Tom replied with a slight smile. The docking procedure took nerve-wracking hours. When they finally cut through the hull, Tom led the team inside. Their lights revealed twisted corridors that seemed to be grown rather than built, with surfaces that absorbed their illumination. Then they heard it, a low, rumbling sound that made their bones vibrate. In a chamber at the heart of the ship, they found the source of the life signal. Curled in what looked like a nest of living metal was a juvenile Shadowhunter. It was smaller than Tom expected, about the size of a large Earth dog. Its skin rippled with patterns of bioluminescence, and its multiple eyes glowed with a dim purple light. It was hurt, with deep wounds along its side. As their lights fell on it, it tried to rise but collapsed with a whistling cry. Tom did something that would change human history forever. He took off his helmet. The creature's eyes fixed on his face, and for a moment he felt something brush against his mind. Confusion, pain, and fear. "It's okay," he said softly, knowing it couldn't understand his words but hoping it would sense his intent. "We're here to help." The Shadowhunter's glow pulsed once, then steadied. And in that moment, witnessed by his astounded crew, Tom Reed became the first human to earn a Shadowhunter's trust. The medical bay of Station Horizon hummed with tension as Dr. Wells worked. The young Shadowhunter lay on a reinforced examination table, its purple bioluminescence pulsing weakly. 3 security officers stood ready with pulse rifles, their hands shaking despite their training. "Those weapons aren't helping," Tom said, watching the creature's glow flicker with each movement the guards made. "They're making it nervous." "With respect, Commander," said Bill, the head of security, "that thing could tear through the hull if it wanted to. We're not taking chances." The main screen lit up with an incoming transmission. The stern face of Council Director Parker filled the display, his expression hard as stone. "Commander Reed, you have committed a serious breach of protocol. That creature must be terminated immediately." Tom stepped forward, positioning himself between the screen and the wounded Shadowhunter. "Director, we have a unique opportunity here. This juvenile is injured and alone. It hasn't shown any aggression. Haven't you read the reports?" Parker's voice rose. "The Shadowhunters destroyed 3 colonies last year alone. They're not animals, Reed. They're planet killers." Dr. Wells looked up from her work, her eyes bright with excitement. "Director, if I may, the readings I'm getting are fascinating. Their biology isn't what we thought at all. The neural patterns suggest high intelligence, possibly even—" "Doctor," Parker cut her off, "your research is noted but irrelevant. Commander Reed, you have 1 hour to eliminate the threat, or we will be forced to take more drastic action." The screen went dark. Tom turned to find the young Shadowhunter watching him with all 6 of its eyes. Its glow had changed to a deep blue color he hadn't seen before. "What do you make of that color change?" he asked Dr. Wells. She adjusted her scanner. "It's remarkable. The bioluminescent patterns seem to shift with emotional states. And look at this." She pointed to a complex wave pattern on her screen. "It's producing electromagnetic pulses in regular intervals. This isn't random. It's trying to communicate." The creature made a soft trilling sound, its wounds already starting to heal at an incredible rate. One of its 4 limbs reached out toward Tom, stopping just short of touching him. "Sir," Bill warned, raising his rifle. "Stand down," Tom ordered. He stepped closer to the examination table. The Shadowhunter's glow pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. Dr. Wells gasped. "It's synchronizing with you. This is incredible. All our assumptions about them being mindless predators. We've been so wrong." The station's alert system suddenly blared to life. "Multiple ships approaching." Jack's voice came through the comm. "Council peacekeepers. They're charging weapons." Tom looked at the creature on the table, seeing not a monster but a lost child. He thought of humanity's own history, how fear had led to countless mistakes, how understanding had always proved the better path. He pressed the station-wide comm button. "This is Commander Reed. I know what the Council has ordered. I know what the protocols say. But we're not just a research station. We're representatives of humanity. And humanity doesn't abandon a wounded child of any species." He turned to his crew in the medical bay. "This is bigger than protocols. This is a chance to understand something everyone else fears. I'm giving you all a choice. The evacuation pods are ready. No one will be forced to stay." Dr. Wells stepped up beside him. "I'm staying. This could change everything we know about interspecies relations." One by one, the security officers lowered their weapons. Bill sighed heavily. "Well, someone's got to keep you scientists from getting eaten." But there was a slight smile on his face. The young Shadowhunter's glow brightened to a warm gold color. It made a sound that reminded Tom of a purr, though much deeper, more like the hum of a star core. "First thing," Tom said, "we need to stop calling it the creature or it. Any suggestions?" Dr. Wells watched as patches of light danced across the Shadowhunter's skin like lightning in clouds. "How about storm?" The Shadowhunter's glow pulsed brightly, and for a moment, everyone in the room felt a wave of what could only be described as approval. "Looks like storm it is," Tom said, smiling. Now, let's show the Council there's more to fear than understanding. Above them, the peacekeeper ships moved into attack position, their weapons ready to enforce the Council's decision. The next few hours would test not just Tom's resolve, but humanity's capacity for compassion in the face of fear. 3 days had passed since the standoff with the Council peacekeepers. Thanks to some creative negotiating and a few well-placed calls to Earth's diplomatic corps, Station Horizon had earned a temporary reprieve. Now, Dr. Wells stood in her lab, watching Storm through a wall of sensors. "Look at this pattern," she said excitedly, pointing to a holographic display. "The electromagnetic pulses change based on who's in the room. It's like Storm is learning our emotional signatures." Tom watched as Storm moved around the converted cargo bay that had become its home. The young shadow hunter had healed quickly, its wounds now just faint marks on its shifting skin. "Can you explain that in simple terms?" "Storm is reading our feelings," Dr. Wells replied. "Not just surface emotions, actual emotional patterns, like how you stay calm in a crisis or how Bill pretends to be tough, but is actually gentle. Storm understands all of that." As if hearing its name, Storm looked up. Its color shifted to a warm golden purple that they'd started associating with curiosity. The creature moved closer to the observation window, its 6 eyes focused on the humans beyond. Suddenly, emergency alarms blared through the station. "Reactor core breach in Section 7. Jack's voice crackled over the comm. "Radiation containment failing." Tom turned to run to the reactor section, but before he could move, Storm's body flared with intense light. The creature moved faster than any human could, smashing through the reinforced door like it was paper. "Storm, wait," Tom called out, but the shadow hunter was already racing down the corridor. When they caught up, they found Storm outside the reactor room. The creature's skin had changed to a deep metallic blue. As they watched, Storm pressed against the door, and its body seemed to absorb the radiation leaking through the seals. "Incredible," Dr. Wells whispered, checking her readings. "Storm's actually consuming the radiation. More than that, it's deliberately positioning itself to protect the crew quarters." Tom stepped closer, ignoring Bill's warning shout. Storm's eyes turned to him, and suddenly he felt it. A clear, powerful emotion projected directly into his mind. Protect the crew, protect the humans. After the crisis passed, Dr. Wells couldn't contain her excitement. "This changes everything we thought we knew about shadow hunters. They're not mindless predators. They're empaths, extremely powerful ones." She pulled up more readings on her screen. "Look at these neural patterns. When Storm absorbed the radiation, it wasn't just acting on instinct. It made a conscious decision to help us." Tom remembered the moment of connection. It was more than that. Storm was worried about us. Actually worried. Over the next few days, they developed a basic communication system. Storm learned to use the station's computer interfaces, tapping out simple messages by manipulating electromagnetic fields. More importantly, the creature began sharing emotions more clearly, creating a bridge between species. One quiet night shift, Tom sat in Storm's habitat, watching the young shadow hunter experiment with a puzzle cube Dr. Wells had designed. The creature's skin rippled with patterns of concentration, occasionally flashing with satisfaction when it solved a new section. "You know," Tom said quietly, "everyone in the galaxy is terrified of your kind. But you're not what they think you are you?" Storm set down the puzzle cube and moved closer. Its color shifted to a deep, midnight blue with streaks of silver, a pattern they'd never seen before. Suddenly, Tom's mind filled with images, vast spaces between stars, the glory of nebulae, the warmth of family groups moving through space together. But there was something else too: fear, loss, the memory of being hunted. "You're not the monsters," Tom realized. "You're refugees, survivors." Storm's glow pulsed once in confirmation. The creature extended one of its limbs, gently touching Tom's hand. In that moment of connection, both human and Shadowhunter understood something profound. Fear could be overcome, bridges could be built, and understanding could grow in the most unexpected places. Dr. Wells found them like that hours later, the feared predator and the human commander, sharing the simple comfort of companionship. She quietly added another note to her research. Perhaps the greatest discovery is not understanding Shadowhunters, but realizing how much they understand us. The first warning came as a subtle vibration through Station Horizon's hull. Storm, who had been helping Dr. Wells catalog different emotional signatures, suddenly went rigid. Its color drained to a pale, almost white shade that they'd never seen before. "Something's wrong," Tom said, watching as Storm pressed against the observation window, all 6 eyes fixed on the distant stars. Jack's voice crackled over the comm system. "Commander, 3 massive ships just dropped out of hyperspace. They're Shadowhunter vessels, adult ones." Tom rushed to the command center, his heart pounding. On the main screen, 3 enormous ships hung in space like dark clouds against the stars. Each was at least 10 times the size of Storm's damaged vessel. "They found us," Bill whispered, his hand instinctively moving to his weapon. "They've come for Storm." The station's communication system suddenly erupted with noise. Not standard transmissions, but powerful electromagnetic pulses that made every piece of equipment vibrate. Storm appeared in the doorway, its skin now rippling with complex patterns of dark purple and silver. "They're calling for their child," Dr. Wells said, checking her readings. "The patterns are similar to Storm's, but much more powerful." Before anyone could respond, the Council emergency channel activated. Director Parker's face appeared on a side screen, his expression grim. "Commander Reed, you were warned. Now we have 3 Planet Killer-class vessels in a civilian sector. The Council has authorized immediate decisive action." Tom's blood ran cold. "What kind of action?" "A cleansing fleet is on its way with a Nova-class weapon. We're going to end the Shadowhunter threat once and for all. You have 30 minutes to evacuate your station." The screen went dark. Tom looked at his crew, then at Storm. The young Shadowhunter was projecting emotions so strongly that everyone in the room could feel them. Fear, confusion, and a desperate desire to protect both its family and its new friends. "They're going to kill everyone," Dr. Wells said quietly. "The Shadowhunters, us, the station. They'll vaporize this entire sector of space." Tom straightened his back. "Not if we stop them. Storm, can you talk to your family? Can you help them understand?" Storm's colors swirled uncertainly. Through their now familiar emotional link, Tom felt the creature's doubt. Adult Shadowhunters were set in their ways, suspicious of other species after centuries of being hunted. "Commander," Jack called out, "the hunter ships are moving into attack position. They think we're holding Storm prisoner." The station shuddered as the first warning shot passed nearby, its energy wake scrambling their sensors. Storm pressed its head against Tom's hand, sharing a clear image. The adults would retrieve their child, then destroy the station to protect their secret existence. "Everyone to the evacuation pods," Tom ordered. "That's an order." Dr. Wells stepped forward. "Tom, you can't stay here alone." "I'm not leaving Storm," he said firmly. "And I'm not giving up on proving that humans and Shadowhunters can understand each other. The Council is wrong. Fear and violence aren't the answer. They never were." Storm's color shifted to a deep royal purple. Through their link, Tom felt a new emotion, respect, and something like love. The young Shadowhunter had learned about human courage, about standing up for what was right even in the face of overwhelming odds. The adult ships moved closer, their massive forms blocking out the stars. Inside the station, warning klaxons blared as the evacuation countdown began. But Tom stood his ground, Storm by his side, ready to face whatever came next. "If we're going to die," he said quietly, "let's show them all that there's another way, that humans and Shadowhunters can stand together." Storm's glow pulsed in agreement, its pattern matching Tom's heartbeat. Together, they watched as the massive ships approached, knowing the next few minutes would either end in destruction or change the galaxy forever. Time seemed to slow in Station Horizon's command center. The evacuation pods had launched 10 minutes ago, carrying most of the crew to safety. Only Tom, Dr. Wells, and Bill remained with Storm, facing the 3 massive Shadowhunter ships through the reinforced windows. 5 minutes until the Council fleet arrives, Bill reported, his voice steady despite the fear. Storm moved to the center of the room, its skin glowing with a new pattern, rings of light that spread outward like ripples in a pond. The young Shadowhunter raised all 4 limbs, and suddenly the air itself seemed to vibrate with energy. Tom gasped as his mind filled with images, not just emotions this time, but true memories. Storm's memories. He saw vast starships grown from living metal, their crews moving in perfect harmony. He watched Shadowhunter children playing among the stars, their bodies shifting to catch solar winds. "Are you seeing this?" Dr. Wells whispered, tears in her eyes. "They're beautiful." But then the memories darkened. Tom witnessed the first attacks by terrified alien species, saw peaceful Shadowhunter exploration vessels destroyed without warning. The survivors learned to hide, to appear fierce and dangerous, knowing that fear was their only defense against extinction. They were never predators, Tom realized aloud. They're solar sailors, space explorers, like us. Through Storm's memories, he saw how Shadowhunters absorbed radiation and stellar energy, using it to power their biological ships. The attacks on colonies hadn't been acts of aggression. They were desperate attempts to protect their secret paths through space, their hidden sanctuaries. Storm's glow intensified, and suddenly Tom understood something else. The complex patterns of light weren't just beautiful. They were language. Each ripple and wave of bioluminescence carried meaning, telling stories of stars and silence, and the joy of flying between worlds. "That's why no one ever understood them," Dr. Wells said excitedly, typing rapidly on her tablet. "We were looking for radio signals, sound waves, standard forms of communication. But they speak in light itself." The station shuddered as the adult Shadowhunter ships moved closer. Storm's patterns became more urgent, and Tom felt the creature's desperation. It was trying to teach them enough, quickly enough, to prevent the coming disaster. Through their deepening connection, Tom began to grasp basic elements of Shadowhunter language. Each color had layers of meaning: purple for family, blue for peace, gold for discovery. The patterns between colors were like grammar, linking concepts together into complex ideas. 2 minutes until Council fleet arrival, Bill warned. Storm turned all 6 eyes to Tom and shared one final memory. Tom saw a young Shadowhunter, curious about other species, deliberately damaging its ship just enough to drift into human space. It hadn't been an accident at all. Storm had chosen them, chosen humans, believing they might be different from the others who attacked on sight. "You trusted us," Tom said softly. "From the very beginning." Storm's color shifted to a deep, royal purple threaded with gold, family and discovery combined. The meaning was clear. Storm saw humans as a chance for its people to end centuries of hiding, to find new friends among the stars. Tom straightened his shoulders and stepped forward. With careful concentration, he forced his racing mind to focus on patterns of light and color. His first attempt at Shadowhunter language was probably clumsy, but he pushed his emotions through the mental link Storm had created, trying to shape them into the right forms. Asterisk friends. Peace. Future. Together. Asterisk. Storm's answering glow was brilliant enough to light up the entire command center. Through their connection, Tom felt a surge of joy and hope from the young Shadowhunter. For the first time in centuries, a non-Shadowhunter had spoken their true language. The adult ships outside went still, their dark surfaces beginning to ripple with answering patterns of light. They had noticed, had felt the unprecedented communication. Now everything depended on what would happen next. Council fleet dropping out of hyperspace, Bill's voice carried through the command center as a dozen heavily armed ships appeared at the edge of their sensors. They're charging the Nova weapon. The 3 adult Shadowhunter ships had begun to pulse with intricate patterns of light, their massive forms still surrounding station horizon. Through his new understanding of their language, Tom could read confusion and surprise in their displays. No other species had ever attempted to communicate in their true tongue before. Suddenly, the station's hull creaked and groaned. The largest Shadowhunter vessel had extended what looked like tendrils of living metal, wrapping them around the station's docking bay. "They're breaking in." Bill raised his weapon, but Tom held up his hand. "No, watch their colors." The patterns flowing across the tendrils weren't aggressive red or warning black, but rather shifting waves of purple and gold, the colors of family and discovery that Storm had taught them. They weren't attacking, they were creating a bridge. The docking bay doors opened with a hiss of pressure. 3 adult Shadowhunters glided into the station, each one nearly 3 times Storm's size. Their skin rippled with waves of light that made the station's artificial illumination seem dim in comparison. Storm bounded forward, its own patterns shifting rapidly, telling its story, explaining everything that had happened. The adult's colors fluctuated between disbelief and growing understanding, as Storm showed them the memories of being helped, of humans choosing compassion over fear. "Commander," Director Parker's voice cut through the comm system. "The Nova weapon is ready. Get out of there now." Tom stepped forward, standing beside Storm. Looking directly at the adult Shadowhunters, he focused his thoughts into patterns of light and color as Storm had taught him. It was like learning to speak with his whole body, turning emotions into visible poetry. "We choose friendship over fear. We see your truth. We offer peace. The largest adult Shadowhunter's color shifted to a deep, midnight blue shot through with silver, the color of ancient wisdom. It moved closer to Tom, its 6 eyes studying him intently. Then it did something unprecedented. It lowered its outer defensive layer, revealing its true form underneath. Without its protective covering, the Shadowhunter was breathtaking. Its body seemed to be made of living starlight, with constellations moving beneath its surface. This was what they really were, creatures of light and space, not the fearsome predators everyone believed them to be. "My God," Dr. Wells breathed, her scanner forgotten in her hand. "They're not just solar sailors. They're living embodiments of stellar energy." 10 seconds to Nova weapon firing, Bill warned. The adult Shadowhunter's pattern changed again, this time forming shapes Tom hadn't seen before. Storm quickly translated through their mental link. "Your kind is different. You choose to understand instead of destroy. Perhaps there is hope for a new way." Tom nodded, then hit the station's emergency broadcast channel. "Director Parker, all council ships, hold your fire. The Shadowhunters are not our enemies. Look at your screens. Really look." The adult Shadowhunters had all dropped their defensive layers now, their true forms filling the station with living light. Together with Storm, they began to pulse in harmony, creating a display of communication more beautiful than any human had ever witnessed. Through the comm system, Tom heard gasps and exclamations of awe from the Council fleet. The patterns the Shadowhunters were creating told their whole story. Their peaceful nature, their love of exploration, their centuries of hiding in fear. It was impossible to witness such beauty and still think of them as monsters. "Nova weapon powering down," came the shaky report from the Council fleet. "Director Parker." "Sir, what are we seeing?" Tom smiled as Storm pressed against his side, both of them watching as humans and Shadowhunters witnessed the first moment of true understanding between their species. "We're seeing the truth," he said simply. "And the truth is more beautiful than any of us imagined." 6 months had passed since the historic first contact between humans and Shadowhunters at Station Horizon. The station itself had been transformed, its halls now filled with shifting patterns of light, as both species worked together to build something unprecedented. The first joint human Shadowhunter diplomatic center. Tom stood in the newly constructed observation dome, watching as a young human researcher learned to speak in light patterns with a shadow hunter elder. The sight still filled him with wonder. Around them, the station's walls had been modified with living metal, allowing the shadow hunters to communicate through the very structure of their shared home. "The council representatives are ready," Dr. Wells said, entering the dome. She had been promoted to lead researcher of interspecies communications, her original theories about shadow hunter intelligence now fully vindicated. In the main conference chamber, Council Director Parker sat with other officials, their expressions still showing traces of disbelief as they watched Storm give its presentation. The young shadow hunter had grown considerably, its patterns now more complex and confident. Through the new translation systems Dr. Wells had developed, Storm's light speech reached everyone in the room. "Our people have hidden for too long. Humans have shown us that fear can be overcome with understanding. Together, we have begun to share our knowledge." The chamber's walls rippled with supporting data. Shadowhunter technology, based on living metal and solar energy, was revolutionizing space travel. Their ability to safely absorb radiation had already helped clean up 3 damaged reactor sites on human colonies. The Galactic Council recognizes its grave error in judgment. Director Parker announced formally, "All outstanding hunt orders against Shadowhunters are hereby permanently rescinded. Furthermore, we extend an invitation for Shadowhunter representatives to join the Council itself." Storm's colors shifted to bright gold. "The joy of discovery. We accept with one condition. Commander Tom Reed must serve as the first joint ambassador. He was the first to trust, the first to learn our ways. He showed us that humans are different." Tom felt a warm glow of pride, remembering how far they'd come from those tense first moments with a wounded alien child. Now, Shadowhunter ships openly sailed between the stars, their natural beauty inspiring awe rather than fear. Bill, who had stayed on as head of the station's new Joint Security Force, leaned over to Tom. "Remember when I was ready to shoot Storm? Now I'm teaching Shadowhunter youngsters how to play baseball." He chuckled. "Well, a version of it anyway. Hard to keep the ball in play when your opponents can float." The meeting concluded with an unprecedented event. The adult Shadowhunters who had once come to attack the station now moved through the chamber, sharing their true forms with the council members. The room filled with living starlight as they demonstrated their natural ability to dance with solar winds and stellar energy. Later, Tom stood with Storm in their favorite spot, watching the stars through the observation dome. "Did you really damage your ship on purpose to meet us?" he asked, something he'd wondered since learning the truth. Storm's pattern shifted to show both confirmation and amusement. "My people had watched humans for years. While others fought or fled, humans showed curiosity. You named your ships Enterprise and Discovery. You sent messages of peace into space even when no one answered. I believed you were ready." Tom smiled. "And now look at us, working together, exploring space as friends." More than friends, Storm's patterns glowed warmly. Family. Through the dome, they could see the newest addition to the station, a nursery where young Shadowhunters taught human children to speak with light, while human teachers showed Shadowhunter youth the joy of art and music. The next generation would grow up knowing only friendship between their species. As the stars wheeled above them, Tom reflected on how far they'd come. A single act of compassion, a choice to help rather than harm, had changed the course of 2 species forever. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Sometimes the most powerful force wasn't fear or weapons or strength, but the simple human capacity to reach out and make a friend, even of those everyone else called monsters.